What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, the Puerto Rican conservative, and today I wanted to cover who do you believe Donald Trump will be firing after Robert Mueller gave the order for Donald Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, to be raided. Now, as everybody knows, Donald Trump has been looking forward to firing Robert Mueller for a while, but because of the advice being given to him by his legal team and advice being given to him by other Republicans and conservatives alike, Donald Trump has been hesitant on reacting on his impulse and firing Robert Mueller because of the simple reason that, according to a lot of politicians, this violates certain federal codes which regulate how things are administered and who is in charge of what, as far as investigations and probes are concerned. It's a way of dividing power so that nobody holds absolute power over on anybody. Now, with that being stated, as everybody knows, in the beginning when Donald Trump came in, Jeff Sessions had recused himself from the from the Trump-Russia collusion investigation, and that's when Donald Trump had appointed Rod Rosenstein. Rod Rosenstein then appointed special counsel Robert Mueller to lead the investigation. But at the time, okay, wait, pause. Let me take a minute just to reiterate real quick for those of you who don't understand what is going on or a little bit out of touch with what has been going on as far as current news and such. I'm going to backtrack a little bit, and I'm going to take you guys back a little bit back in time to let you know what's been going on and what led to the raiding of Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's lawyer. Now, I don't know if anybody knows, but recently there was a donation given to Donald Trump organization by a Ukrainian businessman known as Viktor Pinchuk. Pinchuk donated $150,000 to the Trump organization, and and according to Robert Mueller, this was more than probable. This gave him more than probable cause in order for him to use that as a pretext to further dig into Donald Trump's financial workings, the financial workings of the Trump organization. Keep in mind that Donald Trump has already claimed that he gave more than 1 million pieces of document pertaining to the financial workings of the Trump organization. Now, Robert Mueller ended up utilizing this as a pretext. Now, as I had covered on my previous video, the reason I believe that Donald Trump was right, and that what was going on as far as Robert Mueller utilizing the $150,000 as a pretext to further dig into Donald Trump's organization's financial workings was only a pretext. And I'm going to explain to you why Robert Mueller is doing this. Ultimately, if Robert Mueller can utilize these $150,000 in order to dig deeper into Donald Trump's organization's financial workings, then there's something called parallel construction. And what parallel construction is, that basically Robert Mueller is utilizing his position to have access, unrestricted access to financial records and such of the Trump organization, so that this is a process or a tactic that they utilize so that they start creating a parallel case, that while they're investigating the case at hand, they're creating a parallel case with evidence that they're only now attaining after they're abusing their authority by further investigating Donald Trump's financial workings, establishing a parallel case so that this case right here, so that if this case right here falls through, later on in the future, they're going to fabricate and come out with another case. We're not going to know where the case came from, but this case will be a parallel construction of evidence that was illegally obtained by this case. Because remember, there's a such thing as an overreach of authority. And when Special Counsel Robert Mueller was assigned by Rod Rosenstein, he was governed by 5 instructions, which basically created a perimeter of authority around Robert Mueller to detail exactly what his authority is and what would define an overreach of authority. And because of this, now Robert Mueller is in hot water because of his overreach, because one of the first things that Donald Trump said last year was, do not go into the financial workings of my family or my business. Because ultimately, if they haven't been able to find anything on Donald Trump for the past 2 years, they'll never find anything on Donald Trump. Now, going back to the original story at hand. So the $150,000, which Robert Mueller is utilizing as a pretext to dig deeper into Donald Trump's financial working, is a pretext. I'm going to reiterate the same information that I shared on my last video. For 3 reasons, it's a witch hunt. Number 1, Victor Pinchuk knows Donald Trump for years, way before Donald Trump became a politician. Not only that, but Victor Pinchuk gave Donald Trump the $150,000 donation on September of 2015. Take into mind that Donald Trump had not yet secured the presidency, nor did he even secure or guarantee that he would be appointed as the nominee for the Republican Party, because he got nominated on May 16th of 2016. Pinchuk gave him the donation on September of 2015. That's almost a year separated, and Donald Trump didn't accept the nomination until June 20th of 2016. So we can automatically slash out the box that the donation was given under the pretext that he wanted to have political influence over Donald Trump, because he neither have the presidency secured and he didn't have the Republican nomination secured. Reason number 2 is the fact that Donald Trump did not solicit the $150,000 from Victor Pinchuk, but instead it was his lawyer, Michael Cohen, who had solicited the $150,000 from David Pinchuk. Mind you that this is the same lawyer that signed a $130,000 agreement with Stephanie Clifford, aka Stormy Daniels, as hush money in the agreement. An agreement, by the way, that Donald Trump did not sign. Now, that's reason number 2. Reason number 3 is that, sorry, I lost my frame of thought. Just give me a minute. Reason number 3 is that if Robert Mueller can find it in him to investigate Donald Trump and the Trump Organization over $150,000 donation given to Donald Trump 1 year before he secured the Republican nomination, then why is it that Robert Mueller and the rest of the Department of Justice and all of these holdovers do not want to investigate Hillary Clinton, even though Hillary Clinton has received more than $16 million from the same individual, Victor Pinchuk? Not only that, but Hillary Clinton has given more than 106 different speeches to different banks and organizations around the world, all totaling an average of $225,000 per speech. But yet Robert Mueller, the FBI, the Department of Justice, is like they're blind when it comes down to Hillary Clinton. Now, this is the reason right here why I believe that Robert Mueller utilizing the $150,000 donation was nothing more than a pretext to dig deeper into Donald Trump Organization's financial workings and then create something called parallel construction so that they can create a parallel case while digging deep into this present case, finding evidence that they can then utilize to create a new case before this first case is done and over with. They'll be creating a secondary case. And then a couple of months later, so that they don't have to explain where they got this evidence from, they'll then come out with the case and they'll say that they got the evidence from an anonymous source. Now, mind you, as all this is going on, I want you guys to keep in mind, yes, a lot of us want Robert Mueller fired. But ultimately, the reason that will be a terrible idea is because it violates certain federal codes that govern the way investigations are conducted and who should have the say-so ultimately. So ultimately, what is the solution to the Robert Mueller situation is for Donald Trump to fire Rod Rosenstein. Rod Rosenstein, by the way, is the Deputy Attorney General for the Department of Justice. He's the man that was appointed by Donald Trump after Jeff Sessions decided that he was going to recuse himself from the Trump investigation. Now, after Rod Rosenstein ended up getting appointed, he elected Jeff Sessions as special counsel, which means that by law, in accordance to the federal codes and the laws that govern those federal codes, the best way for Donald Trump to go about firing Robert Mueller, matter of fact, knocking out two birds with one stone, would be for Donald Trump to heed the advice of the House on Intelligence Committee, who already want to impeach Rod Rosenstein and Director Chris Wray. Take their advice, fire Chris Wray, Director Chris Wray, fire Rod Rosenstein. Then, since Rod Rosenstein, the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General for the Department of Justice, is the only one that can fire the special counsel, then he can appoint somebody that is going to place somebody that is more aligned with the agenda of getting to the root of the problem and not politicizing it in the way that Robert Mueller has today. So the best way for Donald Trump to go about getting rid of Robert Mueller would be to heed the advice of the House on Intelligence Committee, David Nunes, who has already called for the impeachment of Rod Rosenstein and of Chris Wray. If we do that, then Rod Rosenstein will get replaced. Once Rod Rosenstein is replaced, we can replace him with somebody that's more aligned with the Trump agenda. And then that person can be in a position of power where, in accordance to the policies and the laws that govern the federal codes, they can then legally and without repercussions and without political backlash fire Robert Mueller. Taking into consideration that Robert Mueller has violated the law and Rod Rosenstein has backed him up. Rod Rosenstein is the one to be held legally accountable because of his overreach. Not only the overreach of authority, which was already governed by a 5-point web, a law that was supposed to govern the position and the role that the special counsel was supposed to play in this investigation. Now, because of the fact that Rod Rosenstein did not enforce this 5-point code, which governed the role and the authority and the limits of special counsel, then Rod Rosenstein is to be held accountable. He is to be fired. We already are backed by the House of Intelligence Committee. We're already backed by the Freedom Caucus. We're already being backed. So the best thing to do, fire Rod Rosenstein, fire Director Chris Wray, replace Rod Rosenstein with somebody who's more aligned with the Trump agenda. And the Trump agenda is not clouding truth and clouding facts, but ultimately the Trump agenda is to get to the root of the problem and to get to the root to the cause. And as long as we continue people like Robert Mueller, who utilize these tactics, which I've already identified as parallel construction, the same thing that's been going on since 2016, investigating Donald Trump and then utilize evidence that they only obtained after the investigation to create a parallel case, so that before that case is over and done with, they can already have another case for another 2 or 3 months from now. They can have another case open up against Donald Trump. This is all a game. This is a witch hunt. And this is why Donald Trump is right. And this is why, fellow patriots and Donald Trump supporters, we got to stay informed and we got to know what it is and what it isn't. We got to know the informations that are fact and the informations that aren't facts. You know, let's remember that when Donald Trump came into office, one of the promises that was made was that they were going to prevent Donald Trump from being normalized. Also take into consideration that the reason Rod Rosenstein, the Attorney General who's in charge of firing Robert Mueller, the only reason he's on the verge of getting impeached either way is because him and Director Chris Wray have been slow walking the documents pertaining to the FISA warrant. Now, if you guys remember, I don't want you guys to forget this information. You know, this is relevant information. If you guys remember, just a couple of weeks ago, we was just talking about and hashtagging released a FISA memo where there was actual proof that there was an abuse by the Department of Justice who colluded with the FBI and the CIA to abuse how our FISA warrants, the Foreign Intelligence and Surveillance Act, is implemented. And because there was proof of this, and the memo was released, and this memo then alerted everybody else that there was an abuse of authority. Not only that, but that there was a silent collusion, or as Lisa Page and Peter Strzok put it, there's a secret society of people that are working in the FBI, the Department of Justice, and the CIA who are always never Trump, anti-Trump, the resistance. There are people in our branches of government that are in the resistance. Lisa Page, Peter Strzok, they already confirmed that when they released the memo, didn't they? It was already proven that Christopher Steele, the author of the Trump-Russia collusion dossier, had fabricated the whole story. But yet they even though they have fired him as an agent for the FBI, they still narrated the information in a way that was going to allow them to get the FISA warrant, because either way they ended up restructuring the facts when they went to apply and reapply, because every 60 to 90 days they need to reapply for the FISA warrant in order for them to continue their surveillance, because these are protocols that are put in play in order for them to prevent the abuse of the FISA court and the FISA power. Director Chris Wray and Rod Rosenstein have been slow walking these documents. They don't want to release them, and because of this, Congress is ready to impeach them and hold them accountable. Donald Trump's option right now, his most legal option, and an option that is not going to basically represent political suicide, is to fire Rod Rosenstein. He's already going to be backed by the House Intelligence Committee. He's already going to be backed by the majority of Republicans and conservatives. He's already going to be backed by the majority of Democrats. But if he fires Robert Mueller because of the federal codes and how our Constitution is laid out and how this is put in play in order to separate and divide power so that America never becomes a dictatorship, if he violates that, then that's going to create a political firestorm and all hell is going to break loose, and the MSM is going to have further fuel to continue colluding with the anti-Trump movement. Let's do this intelligently. Let's do this wisely. Rod Rosenstein it is. Rod Rosenstein, you gotta go. Chris Ray, you gotta go. Matter of fact, there are people that are dead that still gotta go. As everybody knows, before Rod Rosenstein was appointed, Sally Yates was in the same position. Ask yourself this: why did Sally Yates get fired? Because she refused to follow through on the orders of Donald Trump. Do you guys remember that? So keeping that in mind, I want you guys to remember what we're fighting here is a legislative war, is a war of semantics, but ultimately, just like Eve learned and just like Adam Eve learned in the beginning of the Bible, none of that means anything. What it really is that a war of semantics, the same way the war of semantics was played by the snake to Eve and Adam, is a political war which is only created to declare a spiritual war, because that's basically what we're fighting here. We're fighting a spiritual war. Because ultimately, the only way that these legislators and these globalists can control our actions, that they can oppress us and they can slowly but gradually moderate us, is through the implementation of legislation. So he who controls legislation controls man. If I wanted to control the world, I don't have to control the 300 million in America. I don't have to control the 7.6 billion people around the world. All I have to do is control the few hundreds or the few thousands that are in a position of not only authority, but influence. And once I have manipulation on them, and I'm able to coerce and manipulate them, and have them align with my agenda, then I become the man who controls the world. With that being stated, everybody, I want everybody to stay safe and stay informed. God bless. La Maga. Let's all make America great again. One topic at a time. Rod Rosenstein, you out of here. This is going to be huge.